Etam Savadutam Varijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shah Om Agyantamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurube Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Janmadyasya Yatanvayati Taratas Charite Shvabhigya Swarat Tene Brahmaridhaya Rati Kabaye Bhuyanti Asuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sadhana Rastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Srimad Bhagavatam 9th Canto Chapter 19, verse 13. Ya pritivyam vrihi yavan hiranyam pashabastriya naduhyanti manapritim pungsa kamahatasyate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A person who is lusty cannot satisfy his mind, even if he has enough of everything in the world, including rice, barley, and other food grains, gold, animals, and women. Nothing can satisfy him. Purport: improvement of one's economic condition is the aim and object of a materialist, but there is no end to this material advancement. For if one cannot control his lusty desires, he will never be pleased, even if he gets all the material wealth of the world. In this age, we see much material improvement, but still people are struggling to get more and more material opulence. Manarshashtan indriyani pakrutistani karshati. Although every living entity is a part of the Supreme Being, because of lusty desires, one continuously struggles for so-called betterment of one's economic condition. To have a satisfied mind, one must give up his heart disease of lusty desires. This can be done only when one is Krishna conscious. Bhaktim param bhagavati pratilapya kamam hre rogam ashrapahino tachirena dhira. If one becomes Krishna conscious, then he can give up this heart disease. Otherwise, this disease of lusty desires will continue, and one cannot have peace in his mind. Om Tat Sat, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Yayati is telling his own story, it seems, in an allegorical fashion to his wife. And basically, he's giving the import of his allegory in these verses. In this particular verse, the import of his life, because that's what he's telling, his life story. The import of his life is that despite being able to enjoy all wonderful and pleasing things, so this is a list of everything he's able to enjoy. Vrihi, yavan, nice foodstuffs. Hiranyam, gold. Pashava, nice animals. Striya, women. And all that is enjoyable on the earth. Ya pritivyam. Naduhyanti manapritim. Despite being able to enjoy all that is pleasing in this world, it did not give him manapritim. It did not give him satisfaction of mind. This is the import of his life. And by extension, the import of the life of all materialists. That despite being able to enjoy all that which is enjoyable, naduhyanti manapritim, they did not give satisfaction of mind. Why not? Pulsam kamahatasyate. Because my mind was afflicted by kama. This is the reason. So the problem is inside, right? the lack of satisfaction or happiness is an inside problem, right? And we look for the solution outside in the form of various enjoyable sense objects, foodstuffs, gadgets, sex life, and so on. The problem is inside, but we look for the solution outside. And then we are frustrated when those outside things don't solve the inside problem. So if you want to solve the inside problem, you have to go inside and see what is the problem inside. Otherwise, the outside chase of the sense objects will be of no avail to us. So going inside, Yayati is identifying what is the problem. Nadu hyanti manapritim. My mind is not satisfied because inside there's the problem of kama. Pungsa kama hatasyate. Because I'm afflicted by kama. So unless this kama problem is removed, then I will not be able to experience satisfaction in the mind. So I have to figure out how to solve that problem. So this is the main issue in the world. The issue is they have an inside problem, but they look for solution outside. They are frustrated. And even if they have the wisdom to realize that the problem is inside, and even if they figure out that the problem is affliction of karma, they don't have a solution how to remove that problem. So that is also frustrating. You come to the realization that there is an inside problem, and that problem is this. They may give different names to it, but let's sticking to the Bhagavatam here. The problem is karma. But how to remove that karma? So that is a problem. First of all, you don't even know that there is the problem is inside. Then you finally figure it out, but you have no what means of removing it. So that is very frustrating. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita speaks similarly about karma. Avritam gyana etena ganina nitya verina karupena konteya dushparena cha. So here Krishna says the gyanam, you can say the wisdom of the wise person is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied, dushparena. It is never satisfied, analena cha, and it burns by fire. So this is the nature of the karma problem inside. It is never satisfied, so that means it's burning like fire. So burning like fire, you want to put the fire out, right? Just like we are told sometimes in Ayurveda, don't drink cold things because it will destroy your fire of digestion. So we want to destroy this fire. So we think, I will destroy the fire by giving it what it wants, the outside objects. But when we give it what it wants, then the fire becomes bigger. It's like putting ghee or fuel into the fire, become bigger and bigger. So it is burning like fire and they're induced prana. So we're not satisfied. So karma is hitting us in this way. Very heavy issue. Another verse, this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kamadhinam katina katida palita durni deshas tesham jata mayina karuna natrapa no pashanti. Usre gyaitanata yatupate sampratam labda bhuti stamayata sharanamabhayama nyukshat madasye. This is such a nice verse. He says, "Oh my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of my lust desires." Yes, kamadina katina katida palita durni deshas. The karma is making us do so many unwanted things that we also know this is not good, or this is problem, but we are forced to do. Arjuna's question, even in chapter 3, where Krishna starts talking about lust, is this point, that I don't desire to do, but I'm helplessly doing. So here, in this prayer also, the same thing is being told. The karma, adina means etc., like lust, anger, envy, greed, and so on. So many enemies of the heart are there. But karma is the leader. So they're giving so many orders, and they are palita durni deshas. They are undesirable orders. It's undesirable, getting us into so much trouble also. Tesham jata mayina karuna. They have not shown any mercy to me. Means that even I satisfy their desire, still no mercy. They don't release me Just like when we were in school, sometimes we would get bullied, not sometimes, a lot. And the bully, he will say that if you don't give me your lunch money, I'll beat you up. So if he was a merciful bully, he will take your lunch money and not beat you up. But there were some bullies, they will take your money and also beat you up. That means no mercy. So these leaders, these masters headed by karma are like that. Even I give them what they want, still they're not releasing me. No mercy. Natrapa, no upashanti. And I have never felt ashamed. Now upashanti, there is no desire to stop. I'm stuck. Usre gyaitanata yadupate sampratam, love the Buddhis. But now I'm giving them up. Usre gyaita means I'm starting to give them up. Oh, how you were giving them up? Such powerful masters. How are you able to give them up? He says here, sampratam, love the Buddhis. Now I'm giving them up because my intelligence has been awakened by association with saintly persons. Love the Buddhis. My spiritual intellect has awakened by the association of saintly persons. So now, twamayata sharanamabhayam mam ninyukshat madasya. So I'm approaching the lotus feet of the Krishna, who awards fearlessness, and I'm desiring to engage in his service. Otherwise, there's no hope. Hold on, my computer is about to do this dying thing. So here in this verse, these verses that I've shared, we heard the problem and how the problem is affecting the soul. And in this verse, we're also hearing the solution. Solution is love the Buddhis. That the spiritual intelligence has to be awakened by sadhu sangha. Then after that, you approach the lotus feet of Krishna and you can be saved from this problem. Okay, so moving on here, basically the problem, so what we've mentioned is that Yayati is telling that the problem is inside, so the solution has to go inside also. The problem inside is karma, and that karma can be driven out by bhakti. That's what we're hearing. So far, that's what we're hearing here. So when dealing with the problem, there's like a practical way of dealing with it. We call it an empirical approach and a spiritual approach, the ultimate approach in dealing with the issue. I say empirically because earlier in the 8th canto, we heard Bali Maharaj's pastime. So in that story, Krishna appears as the dwarf avatar, Vamande. And he asks charity of Bali Maharaj, give me 3 steps of land. 3 steps. Now he's the dwarf, short guy. So what will his 3 steps cover? So Bali Maharaj was like, what is this? He said, you should ask for something that you will not again have to ask me for something. I'm owning, at that time, Bali Maharaj had conquered the whole cosmos. So he has so much he could give. So he said, why you should ask for only 3 steps? What is this 3 steps? Ask for something that you'll not have to again come and ask me. So that time, Vamandev gave very nice statements. He says, whatever there is in this whole cosmos to satisfy a person cannot satisfy one who is, he used the word ajitindriya, which means his senses are uncontrolled because of lust inside. Whatever there is in this world to satisfy a person cannot satisfy a person who is uncontrolled. Then he goes on to say, if he's not able to be satisfied with 3 steps of land, he will not be satisfied with the entire cosmos also. So therefore the solution, he says, this verse I want to share. This is a nice verse. Yadrichaya upapanena santushta vartate sukha. Na asantushta stribhir lokaya. Ajitatma upasaditaya. So he says here that one should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by providence. Yadrichaya upapanena santushta vartate sukham. If you can be santushta, santushta means satisfied. By whatever is obtained somehow or other. Vartate Sukham, then there will be happiness. Happiness comes from contentment with whatever is coming by chance. You could say by chance, by providential arrangement, by daiva. This is your karmic lot. This is how you deal with the problem practically. So in Vedic culture, you will see there's a lot of instruction for keeping karma low, like how you say constrained, tethered. I'm looking for different words. Because there's this tension between kama and karma in this world. You understand? Kama means desire, and karma means what your karma here means what you're destined to inherit in this world. Karma manifests in three ways: as a type of birth, as a type of life experience, and then a time of death, basically. That's what karma manifests. So karma is a ontological imposition on the soul. It's like a boundary line that you won't be able to cross beyond in this life unless you do spiritual sadhana. That is another thing we'll get to. But karma is like a ontological imposition on the soul. He can't really cross beyond that. So if your karma stays within the boundary of your karma, then you can be santushta, you can be satisfied. But if the karma becomes more than the boundary of karma, then you'll go crazy. So this is what's happening to modern generation because they have iPhones and they keep looking at everyone's life. And their karma is very less, but their karma is becoming more. And so they're going crazy. So now they're doing all these studies saying how the social media causes depression, it causes suicidal tendency. Why that is happening? That's because the karma is going beyond the boundary of the karma of the individual. So you cannot be satisfied. But if you keep the karma within the boundary of karma, then you can be satisfied. Santushta, content. And if you're content, you'll be happy. Vartate sukham. You'll be happy. So this is practical way. Therefore, Shastra gave a lot of instructions to keep the karma tethered. Because someone will ask the question, it's a good question. Well, how do I know what my karma is? You don't. Therefore, the instructions is to keep karma under control. Because you don't know what is your karma. So the karma, you may get a lot or you may get little. That you will not know, because that you'll come to find out as it is unfolding. So therefore, you should keep the karma under control. The less karma, then the more likely you'll be within the boundary of your karma, and then you'll be happy. Santushta vartate sukham. This contentment will make you happy. But na asantushta tribhir lokar ajitatma upasadita. But if you are asantushta, for one who is dissatisfied, then even if he possesses the three worlds, that will not be enough. I want more, I want more, I want more. So this karma becomes a very big problem for the living entity. So this is empirically how you have to deal with the issue. Yadricha upapanena santushta. This is a very wise phrase here. Be satisfied with whatever is obtained, yadrichaya, somehow or other. That means by providence, according to one's karma here. As Prabhupada has in the words for me. This is a very practical way of dealing with the issue. But even if you deal with the issue this way, because karma is still there, okay, I've kept the karma under control, I'm satisfied with whatever I get. Still, it burns. It doesn't give this empirical, you can say, strategy will not give the ultimate satisfaction. So for that, you need to go a little bit deeper on the soul level. So that is a question of the sages in the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. You see this verse here, Burini Buri Karmani, Shotavyani Vibhagasha, Atasa Dotraya Saram, Samudrita Manishaya, Bruhi Badraya Bhutana, Yenatma Suprasidati. For this last line, I'm quoting this verse. Yenatma Suprasidati. They want to know what is the sadhana. Because scripture is telling so many things. Burini Buri Karmani, Shotavyani Vibhagasha. There are many scriptures, and in those scriptures, there are many activities prescribed, and those activities themselves have so many divisions to them. So how do you know which one to select? They're very confusing. especially when you come to what you can call Indian literatures. Because I always say in Indian philosophy, philosophical systems, all of them, they all are really into taxonomy, where they keep like breaking things down to different categories and subcategories. No subcategories have other categories. And then there's like this subtle element, and then this nuance. And then, so if you just like read it, you become bewildered. At least in the West, Western religious system, they keep it simple. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. Boss. Finish. But if you come to any system in Indian philosophical thought, it's so many breakdowns because there are so many types of living entities. Nuances required. Nigama kalpataru galitambalam. The Shastra is a desire tree dealing with so many living entities. So if you study yourself, you become bewildered. Which one is the I shall follow? So the sages are asking Sudha Goswami, Ata sadhu, atra yatsaram, samudritya manishaya. So you are, learned person. So by your own, manishaya, by your own wisdom, you select what is the essence. And so many things are being prescribed. So you tell what is the essence. For what purpose? Buri bhadraya bhutanam, atma suprasidati. So the living entities can obtain atma suprasidati. The word atma here means mind. The word atma here means like consciousness, the soul. Yena atma suprasidati. How will they get that? Atma suprasidati. That's actually the goal of life. People are looking for atma suprasidati outside. Unfortunately, there's a verse in one of the Upanishads, I can't remember which one, where it says that Brahma, he's the secondary creator of the universe. He designed, the way the senses are constructed is that they only go in the outside direction. So whenever you look for a solution, you look outside naturally first. The senses don't, they weren't designed in a way that looks in the opposite direction, so to speak. And so when we look for a solution, like we want to know how we can be satisfied on a mind level, on a soul level, bodily level, and so on. Then, because our senses are going in the outside direction, we identify with the body. We always look for a solution outside. That's why we call it Bahirmukha also, outward facing. So we're always looking outside for the solution. So Atma Suprasidati, how do they get the Atma Suprasidati? He wants to know. Shastra is recommending so many things. You tell what is the essence by which living entities can get Atma Suprasidati. And they can, because that's what they're looking for. Every one of us is running outside because we're identifying with our body, our senses are moving in that direction. We run outside, but we're looking for the solution inside, consciously or unconsciously. Everyone is looking for Atma Suprasidati. So the sages are asking about this. So when giving answer to this, he says, Savai pungso paro dharmo, yato bhaktera dokshaje ahetukiya pratiyata, yayatma suprasidati. That's what they ask, how the Atma Suprasidati come up. They're giving answer here. What is the answer? Bhakti yoga. Savai pungsa paro dharmo, yato bhaktera dokshaje. The supreme activity or the supreme dharma for all humans, Savai pungsa paro dharma, is that by which prema to the transcendent Lord can be experienced or obtained or actualized. What is that dharma by which prema can be actualized? That dharma is also bhakti. Savai pungsa paro dharma yato bhakti radokshaja. So bhakti as means leads to bhakti as goal, right? That's what he's saying here. Bhakti as means leads to bhakti as the goal. Sadhana bhakti will lead to the experience of prema bhakti. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. That bhakti is produced by bhakti. And that prema is a haitukiya pratiyata, without motive, without interruption, and yayatma suprasidati. That's why I'm quoting this particular verse. And that will give the atma suprasidati. So this is the real solution that the Gaudiyas say to this problem. So here Yayati is saying, Naduhyanti manapritim. He's saying that even though I enjoyed the whole world to the fullest, I still was not satisfied inside because karma was there. So how to remove this karma problem so that one can experience Atma Suprasidati? Of course, remembering the common problem is secondary, but in the context of the verse that we're looking at now. So that common problem can only be removed by Bhakti Yoga. There's no other way to remove that problem. So here Prabhupada is also quoting this particular verse in his purport. Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the last verse of the Rasa Lila pastimes, Krishna's divine dance with the gopis. So the very last verse, Shukadeva Goswami is telling what is the result of hearing or describing the Rasa Lila. I know a lot of devotees, they say one should not hear. In certain places, I've heard and I've been told that when they would read the Bhagavatam and when they get to the Rasa Lila, they just read the verses, they don't discuss them, they just move on. Somehow there's this taboo about Krishna's dance with the gopis. Okay, I'm not qualified, it's so high level topic or whatever. That's okay, but here the benediction, Shukadeva Goswami is telling, for those who hear or describe the Rasa Lila, Vikriditam Vrajavadhu Viridham Cha Vishnu Shradhanvito Anushanuya Atavarnayadya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kama Rogam Asha Pahino Tachine Nadida. So anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs with the young gopis of Vrindavan, Shradhanvito Anushanuyat Atavarnayadya. So anyone who Anushanuyat means continuously hear. So not one time. Not one time, oh yes, I read once upon a time. No, continuously hear. Anushanuyat. And or continuously hear, and or Varnayat means to describe. You doing the kirtan or you're writing poetry about it. Shradhanvito, filled with faith. Filled with faith here means devoid of the offensive mentality towards Bhagavan and his associates. And commentaries say like this. Because only if you are filled with faith can you anushanuyat. You're not anushanuyat without the faith. So they give comment like this. Filled with faith, then you can do continuously hearing and or describing or writing in poetry. About what? Vikriditam Rajavadhu Viridam Vishnu. About this. Idam means this Rasa Lila that I just told the story, this Rasa Lila, where Krishna is sporting with the young maidens of Vrindavan. Krishna here is called as Vishnu because when he began the Rasa Lila dance with the gopis, he expanded himself. And the word Vishnu also means one who like pervades everything. So he expanded himself to dance with all the gopis so that they all thought that Krishna was dancing only with them. So here in this verse, he is called as Vishnu. So if you do this thing, what will be the result? Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya. Then you'll attain supreme bhakti. Supreme bhakti means prema, divine love of God, immaculate love of God. You'll obtain that immaculate love of God and kaman hirit rogam ashu apahinoti achinenadiya. And then the hirit rogam, the disease of the heart known as kama, will be quickly driven away achinena without delay. And this is for the dear. Those who are dear, you will become dear. I've seen two translations like this. So this is a solution to the problem. Going back to the verse from Yayati here. So he says, I enjoyed everything in the world, but nadu hyanti manapritam. They did not give satisfaction of mind because I was afflicted by kama. So how to get the satisfaction of mind? That is obviously the purpose, the satisfaction of the heart, manapritam. So this problem is there also inside, so it needs to be driven out. So that can be driven out by bhakti, but that is a secondary result. And that bhakti itself, which is itself bliss, bhakti is itself bliss. So by that bhakti alone, the mind will become blissful. And as a side, product, the kama will be driven out, then you'll become happy. So the solution to the inside problem cannot be found outside. Ya pritivyam vrihi yavan hiranyam pashavasriya. The inside problem has to be solved inside. And in order to solve that inside problem, you have to go to something that's even more inside than the soul. But the gross body is, most external. Then internal to the gross body is the subtle body. And internal to the subtle body is the soul, we say. But even more internal to the soul is the internal energy of God and God himself. So we have to solve the inside problem. We have to go more inside. Anyway, I mean, a little bit trying to give image of it, a visual of it. And you have to associate with Bhakti and God. Then you can get this, you'll solve the common problem, which is making the mind very disturbed all the time. But more and above that, the soul will experience bliss by contact with the blissful. Rasa vaisaha rasam hevayam dadva anandi bhavati. Krishna is himself rasa, and those who attain that rasa attain ineffable bliss. So that's the solution. So we're telling like this, that you have this problem. So the solution to this problem is to hear and chant about Krishna. That's the solution. People don't like to hear this. They think it's too simplistic. They want something complicated that they can hear from Tony Robbins. They don't want to hear from the devotees. They want to hear from Tony Robbins something complicated. No, our response to the issue of life, which is called as anartha, is bhakti yoga. Anartha upashana saksha bhakti yoga adokshibha. Lokasya ajanato, people don't know this, that this is the problem. They don't know the problem is anartha, and they don't know that the anartha can be removed by bhakti yoga. So Sri Vyasadeva composed the Srimad Bhagavatam to inform them. Chakre Satuta Samhitam. Yasya by Shriyamanayam. Just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, especially as Prabhupada's pointing out here in the purport, Krishna's dance with the gopis. Just by hearing that, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Krishna Bhadava Purusha, is glorifying Krishna, who's the Supreme Person. Then Bhaktim, what is that? That's in Srimaya. Krishna Parama Purusha Bhaktim Utpadyate Pongsam. Then this bhakti will come in your heart, this prema, immaculate love of Godhead, shoka moha bhayapaha. And as a side thing, just a side thing, secondary thing. No more lamentation, no more bewilderment, no more fear, no more lust, anger, greed, all that driven out. So that means our solution to the problem of dissatisfaction, which is causing so much trouble in the world, is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Very simple answer. They don't like to hear. They want something Tony Robbins said. We should do a TED Talk also. TED Talk, how to solve your problems in one verse. Yes, done by Sri Ramaya. That no one will be agreeable to it. They think it is too simple. No, it has to be more complicated. They think in this way because they're in ignorance. So we don't know. Lokasya Janata, that's what they said. They don't know. But this is a solution. You hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So Yayati expressed his, issue here. He's telling his story to his wife in an allegorical way. And he's telling that I'm not happy. Even I enjoyed nicely with you. I enjoy the world nicely. She may say, what's the problem? You're enjoying so nicely. That doesn't solve the problem. So the problem can only be resolved by love as means and love as end. So anyway, that's my class. I shared all the things I wanted to share. So I was told to make sure to leave some space for questions or comments or whatever. Does anyone want to ask anything? I always stop 2 minutes early to talk to someone else.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hello.
I like to say thank you so much for the reminder of simplifying how and I feel it and I'm living it. And sometimes the fire, I get livid because I'm like, why do I keep doing this when I know that I'm just gonna seek for more and it's so temporary for the external. Just do the prayers in the morning, even though you don't want to wait. Like now that it's easier to wake up in the morning, but because the time has changed. But it's it's so true. It's so simple. It's just listening to the Bhagavatam. I definitely don't want to hear Tony Robbins in the mornings.
Haribo.
So, but thank you so much for your beautiful energy and being who you are and serving our Krishna from your heart and mind and your body as well. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Anyone else want to share anything?
Yeah, we have some appreciations in the chat. Matthew says, beautiful, inspiring class. Thank you. Preeti says, so much in so little time. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Jagannath Prabhu is an expert of doing that. So much spiritual content in so little time. Thank you. What's that verse, the Yadrichaya, somehow or other, you will be supplied. Can you talk a little bit about that? Does that mean being casual and reckless and, Haribol? Or how do I balance that thing? How do I not take it too far?
I guess when you say take it too far, you mean just sitting on your behind all day and just waiting for things.
Yeah, procrastinating and all.
That is also a thing. What is it called? Ajagara vritti? Is that the word? Ajagara? Like the occupation of a python. You'll read about this in 7th canto also, when Prahlad Maharaj is traveling in the field. This is in chapter 13 of the 7th canto. And he comes upon some sadhu who is practicing this Ajagara vritti. Ajagara vritti means the occupation of just lying there on the ground. And whatever comes by providential arrangement, God is maintaining the animals and the species, so he'll maintain me also. And Prahlad Maharaj was astonished because he was fat. He wasn't small, he was fat. So he was like, how are you just lying here in one spot and you're fat? How are you eating? Because the Lord is maintaining somehow or other. That is a thing also. I just want to put that out there. Of course, even when Kaviraj Goswami is describing, giving the import of Trinada Piece from Nietzsche verse. So, and then when describing the be tolerant like a tree, he also alludes to something like this, is Ajagata Vritti. The devotee will not ask for anything, whatever comes by providential arrangement. So you're saying, I don't have adhikar for that Ajagata Vritti, it's a little bit much. Okay, so if you don't have adhikar for that, then you'll be moving around in the world by force. No one can refrain from not doing something even for a moment. So you'll act according to you'll do some duties in this world, basically. And according to the duty, you'll get some result. And whatever result you get from that, you'll be satisfied with that. Otherwise, what happens is most of the time, again, because people's karma is not tethered to sanity, because their karma is not tethered to sanity, they do some duty, they get some result, and they say, more. So that becomes a problem. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. This is a practical approach. You tether your karma to sanity. And what is sanity? I'm doing some duty, some result is coming. And
oh, Jesus, I wasn't the one who was yelling. All right, I don't want to talk anymore about it.
Sorry about that. That was Bhima Prabhu. He wasn't the one, just for the record, he wasn't the one yelling. Yeah, Jagannath Prabhu, go on.
No, that is the answer that I have for this.
Yeah, but I have observed in my life when I, try to apply this Ajagara thing and stop doing stuff.
When have you tried to apply Ajagara Vritti? No one tries to apply that. And that was Sannyas Dharma. In that chapter 713, he was a renunciate. So renunciates, they may do this Ajagara Vritti thing. But you have not tried to do this. I promise you have not tried to do this. I see now you've taken a bath, you dress very nicely. You're not trying to ever practice this.
Yeah.
No one is trying to practice this.
Yeah, but when I stop, my own little Ajagar, my own little twisted Ajagar, for which I'm not qualified. So when I stop doing things that are required from me in my present situation, I see that stuff stops coming. Nothing comes my way if I stop moving. So, and then when I read in Shrimad,
we have a certain ID card, so you have to act according to your ID card. Karmaneva dikariste, mapaleshu kadachana, right? So Krishna gave teachings on Sankhya Yoga first, but then he says, you have adhikar for Karma Yoga. And in that section of the Gita, actually Arjuna is a devotee, but he's giving instruction. He gave instructions basically on Gyan, but then he says, you have adhikar for Karma Yoga. So Sway adhikara yadnishta, saguna parikirtita. Piety is to act according to steadiness in your adhikar. That is called as piety. So if you have a certain adhikar, but you act in another way, your perceptual world will experience it in a very particular way. In other words, you're saying, if I do my perverted ajagara vritti, that's what you said, then I don't do anything, I don't get a result. That's because you don't have adhikar. So the way you experience reality is going to be according to your adhikar.
Right.
So that's why
Adhikar, okay.
But someone who has adhikar for ajagara vritti, they won't experience it like that. They'll be there nice. Nothing's coming. That is also okay. Then something comes. That is also okay.
Okay.
So when you have a certain adhikar, we're basically delimited by our adhikar. So we have to grow. We have to improve.
Okay. So we have Emily raising her hand.
Hi, Krishna to Jagannath Prabhu. Thank you so much for coming on and giving class today. My question is in regarding, so we're talking a lot about sense control, and with this topic comes renunciation, starting to give things up. And so I'm wondering what you would say about how to find that sweet spot that's actually helpful for one while they're renunciating. Sometimes it's easy to try and renunciate too much, or sometimes the mind wants to renunciate too little, like, oh no, this is just my conditioning, this is just where I'm at. So how do we actually know when we're in a proper place of renunciation that's not too much, not too little?
Devotees, we don't really recommend renunciation. It's not like that's an anga of Gyan. So renunciation is considered a natural byproduct of growth in devotion. Right? Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Aishu Vairagyam Gyanam Chayarahituka. So my way of answering this would be, you just do the bhakti more. And then as you are making progress in your devotion, natural renunciation takes place. Of course, the renunciation recommended in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is Yukta Vairagya. So the renunciation, Anansa Tasha Vishana Yatara Vyanjata. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Kuchate. So this sort of renunciation you'll find in pure Bhakti Yoga circles. Something can be used for Krishna and then it's accepted. Otherwise, we don't engage, ideally. And anasaktasha vijaya means you're not attached to the object also. I do a lot of, because devotees abuse this verse a lot for sense gratification. And instead of yukta vairagya, they do atyahara. But if you do it properly, then this is how devotees renounce. Oh, this is good for my seva to Krishna, I'll accept it. Oh, this is not good for my seva to Krishna, I reject, no need for it. That is our renunciation. So I don't know, I wouldn't overburden the mind with trying to think like how to renounce more, how to renounce more, how to renounce more. That is not our path. That is for another type of adhikar. So I already said this, sway sway adhikara yadnishta. Piety means to be steady according to your adhikar. So you have bhakti adhikar. You don't have gyan adhikar or karma adhikar. You have bhakti adhikar. You got from some bhakta. He gave you faith. You embrace the path of bhakti. So you have bhakti adhikar. So you should act according to that adhikar. So for us, our path is more shravan, more kirtan, as much as possible. What is that? Bhakti paresha nubhavo virakter anyatra chaisha trika ekakala. Then trika ekakala. Prapadyama tashna tashush tushti pushti. Churapayonu ghasam. So this is our process. The more the merrier. They say like that, right? The more the merrier, more bhakti, more shravan, more kirtan, as much as possible. Then in doing that, more shravan, more kirtan, renunciation will be automatically within that. Because you can't do more kirtan and more shravan without letting go of something. That's nonsense and not really that important for us. So that is my understanding and suggestion. You have bhakti adhikar, don't overburden the mind with thinking too much about how to renounce this. That also you will not be able to do. That is the other thing. You can't just renounce. Anartha upashaman saksha bhakti yoga adokshaje. These anarthas are destroyed by bhakti yoga. So even if you try to get rid, you'll do well for 1-2 weeks. Third week again coming up, the problem. So I say that's how I think of this issue. I would, if I have to burden the mind, what sort of prayasa I should be doing, then bhakti prayas, only that prayasa is accepted. Ye prayaso ajita jito paishitvaistri lokyam. By this prayasa, what prayasa? Stane sita shuttikatam tanuvamano. By the prayasa of Shravan, with mind, body, words, you dedicate your entire existence to this hearing Bhagavatam. Then by that prayasa, the unconquerable Lord becomes conquered, which means you develop prema. So that is the encouragement of the Bhagavatam. If I have to overburden the mind with anything, let it be burdened by how I'm going to increase my Shravan, how will I increase my Kirtan, how will I increase my Smarna, my Padasevana, like that, I would think. But how I renounce, that is such, the devotee's not into that. How I renounce, we're not into that. We're into how to increase our hearing, how to increase our chanting, how to increase our service to Krishna. If I have to think of anything, let me think of that. Then the renunciation will come naturally, no problem. So we're a little bit lazy on that side. How to increase the hearing chanting. So we think, oh, this is bad for me. How do you're banging our head against the wall, how to get rid of it? You'll not get rid of it. It is like a fly. I was telling, when when you're in a place where a lot of flies are there, and you shake your head, and then they go zzz, and you shake your head and zzz. So the anarthas are like this. When you don't do bhakti yoga, you're trying to shake it off with this method, that other method. Karma again, Tony Robbins, this thing, that thing. But then the anartha just keeps coming back. They're just like so tenacious. Zoop, zoop. So our suggestion is do this bhakti yoga. Burden yourself with how to increase hearing, chanting, and so on. Sadhu Sangha, serve the sadhus, distribute prasad, honor prasad, dance, chant. This process is Kevalananda kind of is so happy. What's the difficulty? If you have to think about how to renounce, you feel frustrated and disturbed. But here we're saying, no, you don't have to give up anything. Come chant, dance, eat this nice feast. It's got cheesecake and cookies too. What is the difficulty? And we say, do it every day. Come, more and more. This Kevalananda Kanda is simply joyful. And then you're like, no, I'm going to think about how I'll get rid of this thing, that thing. And then you're miserable. That is not a good policy. Take this bhakti yoga and be happy. Hare Krishna. Jeff has something he wants to say.
Bhima Prabhu, go ahead.
Do you dare unmute me? Hare Krishna, Jai Jagannath. That's wonderful. Wonderful class. That when I listen to Prabhus such as you, Maharajas in disguise, I am extremely humbled despite my age and years spent around the movement, let us just say, and in it. I am so enthused to see this younger generation come up through like sages, no difference than like sages. But aside from that, I can't quote a lot of scripture, though I do rise very early every morning, and as a life-saving rope, I grab onto it. because I have quite the hectic life, not the life of a cobra, but the life of a groom of horses. And that yelling you heard was the result of somebody almost dying because of my negligence. So that's what happens. And so we do have to, as Prabhupada said, do the needful. And in that instance, we were talking in yesterday's class was about marriage or attraction, man, woman, and how someone looks and the aesthetics of sexual attraction and how it's disturbing and et cetera, et cetera. Two things I just wanted to quickly say. And that is when you say, I had read the other day you probably know Jai Jagannath, the cloud bank of devotion. I'm not sure what the Sanskrit is. I'm reading it. Yes. Chakravarti Thakur Vishwanath, he said bhakti begets bhakti. Very simple. Bhakti begets bhakti. And, one understands that when one chooses to have a life partner, that it's not just about whether her eyebrows are plucked or how attractive she is or something like that. One is preferably in the form of bhakti, learning what a true relationship is all about. The giving of love before even the getting of love, the giving of affection, the giving of oneself over for the pleasure of another, not sexually, so to speak, because we all know how that ends. But giving oneself over in a selfless manner, and what to speak of children, that Christ said that the highest form of love is when a soul or a person is willing to give one's life or gives one's life for the sake of another. And this is precisely what bhakti is. The renunciation part of a man who sees his child falling in the river does not say to himself, I'm going to renounce the land in order to save my child. He does it out of bhakti, out of love to save his child. He's willing to risk drowning himself to save his child. So we should always remember that our relationships in life are a mirror reflection. It doesn't necessarily have to be a perverted reflection. It can simply be a mirror of what we need to develop with Krishna. That this is a relationship, and it is, as the other devotee said, Mataji said, it is such a simple thing. And it is reflected all around us, temporarily, ephemerally, coming and going, disappointing sometimes. But if we simply try to look for that reflection of bhakti in life and in nature, I see it every day on the farm. It's not just dogs and hogs. There's a lot of affection. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of giving. And so thank you very much. I don't mean to ramble on, but I just wanted to first apologize for that interruption. And secondly, just try to give people a vision of something that they can grab at the idea of this by simple everyday life. Just be aware that Krishna is trying to teach you the guru is not only within, Chaita Guru, without Diksha Guru, but all around, all day long, especially in nature, especially in innocent animals, etc. That this bhakti and this love and this wonder and this mystic life is reflected. Hare Krishna.
So there's nice verses there in Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma Stuti. So he's glorifying the Brijbasis. They're all householders. So the sannyasis get a little bit upset. What is this? Because household life is generally presented as the symbol of bondage and the Srimad Bhagavatam. But now you're glorifying these householders, these Brijbasis, you're glorifying them? How you can glorify them above the sannyasis? So then Brahma speaks this prayer. Tava ragadayastenas, tava karagriham griham, tavan moha angrinikado, yava krishna natejana. This is a very important verse for you householders. You find inspiration here. So Brahma prays here, my dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain thieves, Their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles. So he wants to say the opposite, because he's saying until they become your devotees, but when they become your devotees, then that transforms the nature of their desires, their homes, and their affectionate dealings with family members. So here in the commentaries, I'll just read a little bit from here. It's very nice. It says here, the sannyasis will object that the inhabitants of Braja are fallen in the net of material life in the form of attachment to sons and wife. However, what to speak of the householders of Braja, even your ordinary devotees in other places are superior to the sannyasis. Attachment and aversion are great thieves because they steal the great treasure of great bliss from the soul. The souls are bound up in the prison of household life, so they cannot criticize the Supreme Lord after having lost their wealth. As long as people do not get the mercy of your devotees and become your followers, they remain in this position. When they become your devotees, however, they develop attachment for bhakti and aversion to things obstructing bhakti. They become absorbed in you, these thieves, attraction and repulsion, expecting to grasp the great treasure of unlimited knowledge and bliss. When they become fixed in you, give up their bad qualities and instead do good service to others. The house, which was a prison by performance of pious and impious activities, binding them up, becomes a means of attaining the eternal Dhamma through activities of serving you and singing your glories. When the jiva becomes a devotee of Krishna, then the bewilderment, moha, from objects such as wife and sons becomes causes of the expression of love. How can the sannyasis compare to this? My son Sanat Kumara has said the following to show the inferiority of such people, sannyasis, and the superiority of the devotee. And this is a quote from the Bhagavatam, also a very nice verse. The ocean of omniscience is very difficult to cross because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean. So this refers to the jnanis and yogis. We recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing this ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers. So there's a very nice, inspiring commentary. I think all the householders can find that.
What was that verse, Prabhu?
That is 10th canto, chapter 14, verse number 36.
10, 13, 46?
10, 13, 10, 14, 36.
Okay, Matthew, you got that?
That is a very inspiring.
Okay. Jai Jagannath Prabhu, who are you? Who are you? You're
I promise you, I'm an ordinary conditioned soul. I promise you that. And I will not be telling about what goes on in my inner world because it's embarrassing, but I promise you I'm very ordinary. I just do like hearing the Bhagavatam and reading it, so that helps me out a lot. Krishna's mercy. But I can assure you, I'm a conditioned soul. I promise you that.
All right. Okay, do we have any final comments, questions? Anybody? Okay.
For beginners, is there any way that people can, besides just listening to the Bhagavatam, that people can go online maybe on the Bhakti website to find out different activities or things or practices to practice Bhakti yoga? Like maybe we can make it like a simplified way so that it can be offered through the Bhagavatam class. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to talk to some of the leaders there and see. I know they have this Rise platform they've started. It's like a membership platform. They offer many different things on there and a lot of simplified programming because a lot of the members are newer who have joined that particular platform. So I would say check that out first and see if you dig it. And then you can always send suggestions to the leaders. They're very open these days.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Jai Ho, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.
Thank you, Jai Jagannath Prabhu. Thank you very much for your bona fide joyful, dynamic presentation and fluent Sanskrit. Gosh.
Not fluent. Just nice, sharing a lot of nice verses here.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day. See you all tomorrow. Sundarananda Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Matthew, Emily, Maharani Didi, AJ, Hare Krishna.